purely geographical terms, it's not Nottingham Forest, but Burton Albion, who should be considered Derby County's nearest rivals. It is just 12.5 miles down the A38 from Pride Park to the Pirelli Stadium, even closer than the City Ground. And just like Derby and Forest, Burton too are a club shaped by the Clough family. Brian was a regular in the stands at Burton in his later years, where son Nigel was making his mark as player-manager at the then non-league outfit. Burton were formed in 1950 and only reached the Football League for the first time in 2009. Rams legend Roy McFarlane got them over the line, but only after Clough Jr. had laid the foundations before making the switch to Pride Park himself. Clough spent 7 seasons as player-manager in his first spell and returned for a further 5-year stint as boss in December 2015, leading Burton to promotion to the Championship for the very first time that season. Competitive meetings with the Rams are limited. In fact, this will be the first time Burton have faced Derby without Clough in charge, and they boast a 100% home record against the Rams following a pair of wins in their 2-year Championship stay. The links between Derbyshire and East Staffordshire run deep. Former Rams striker Paul Pescisolido was Burton's first manager in the EFL, while former Derby defender Gary Rowett set them up for promotion from League Two in 2015. Jake Buxton and John Brayford are both modern-day favourites at both clubs, while other former notable Burton bosses include Derby legends Sammy Crooks and Jack Stamps. Rams fans will be familiar with Burton's Pirelli Stadium given the club's friendly meetings through the years. Built in 2005 when Burton was still a non-league side, it replaced the club's long-standing home of Eden Park. Capacity stands at just under 7,000, while the record attendance was set against Derby back in August 2016. Good morning and welcome to the preview show. It's A38 Derby Day on RamsTV. Derby County facing Burton Albion this afternoon at the Pirelli Stadium. Just the 5th ever meeting between the two neighbours. Coming up, we'll have all the build-up for you ahead of Matchday Live, which starts at the earlier time of 1:30 this afternoon. First, let's take a look at the League One table. Well, the leaders have stuttered a little bit over the last few weeks, but Plymouth and Ipswich still top the table. Sheffield Wednesday have closed the gap, and it's pretty tight in the playoff race below that. Derby start the day in 7th. They could end the day 4th in the table. The gap to the automatic promotion places, for the record, is 12 points. At the other end, Burton are in a little bit of trouble. Only goal difference keeps them off the bottom of the League One table, and they are 5 points from safety. Two clubs with two different challenges, it seems, for this season. And remember, you can watch today's game with us right here on RamsTV. Head to the website dcfc.co.uk to get your match pass. Now the game is also available right here in the UK for you as well. Well, let's kick off the build-up by hearing from the Derby camp and specifically from current right-back Korey Smith. Derby 6 unbeaten. They haven't lost in all competitions in 90 minutes since mid-October.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, I think everyone knows the Gaffer's teams where he's been at before. Always tough to play against, work hard, and it's not easy to score goals against them because they do work that hard. So, you know, it's something he's trying to install in us. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do still, but I definitely think that's something you can see has been an improvement. We're hard to beat, and I think any team that wants to go and do something has to start with that solid foundation of if you don't concede, you've always got a chance of winning the game. And obviously we've got quality players who can go and score goals and create chances. So for us, it's really important if we can be solid at the back. We know we've always got a chance to score a goal.
I wanted to talk to you about goals. I know you've never been prolific, but are you aware of when your last goal was?
About 3-4 years ago, maybe. I mean, I was injured for about 2 years, so probably longer than that.
Well, it was a good one. It was the Manchester United game in the Cup for Bristol City. You remember it well, or?
Yeah, I remember that a little bit. Like, it was one of those. Happened every week,
I think you sort of preempted my next question, which is, do you think about these things at all? Because I know some players, when they go a while without a goal, it really plays on their minds.
To be honest, I've never really, obviously, listen, everyone wants to score goals, but to be honest, I've always been a bit of a team player. I've always played in a defensive midfield role, so my thing's always kind of been, get on the ball, tackle people, and give it to the flair players who have kind of go on attack. And that's just, if we win the game, I've always been happy, and I've never really worried too much about that as long as my team's winning. But on the flip side, my son, he's not happy. You know what I mean? He's been getting on me for the last few years, like, Dad, what's going on? When are you going to score? Do you know what I mean? So I'd love to, listen, everyone wants to score goals and stuff like that, so I'd love to get on the score sheet. I'm not the biggest, so I'm never up for set pieces either, so I'm always on the halfway lads that don't out for the tap-ins, but yeah, if I can get one, that'd be brilliant, obviously for myself, for the club and for my sons.
I wanted to mention them as well, actually, because the last time we spoke was just before the trip to Anfield, and they were very excited for the Liverpool game. What was their experience of the night? What was yours?
No, listen, that was an amazing experience for everyone. I think, obviously, first and foremost, for the club, I think the boys put on an amazing performance, worked so hard, and I feel like it really set that foundation as well. Obviously, we had a few good games before, but it really, I feel like that game brought us together a little bit, and showed that we can do something against the top team. So I think that was a really important game for us. Obviously, gutted to lose on penalties, but anything can happen. But yeah, on a personal level for the family, it's just special for their memories that live with people forever. My uncle played for a team called Stevenage Borough, when they was before they was in the Football League. And I remember they had an FA Cup game against Newcastle when I was probably about 7, maybe my kid's age. And that's one of my best memories as a kid, going up on the coach, going to watch my uncle play at Newcastle Stadium and seeing how big it was, and playing against Shearer, and that's something that stayed with me forever. So hopefully it stays with them, and they really enjoyed it. Got to have the afternoon off school and a bit of a lay-in the morning, so yeah, it was worth it.
I remember reading an interview with Roger Federer where he talked about he wanted to keep playing long enough for his kids to see what he did. Are you the same in the sense of, do things feel more special now the kids are there and they understand what Daddy does?
100%. I think you try and show them little things that you've done in the past, or when we go visit my mum, she's got a few of my medals and stuff, and the kids like to see them, but I want to be able to them to be there while that's happening, and understand it. They was very young when I last, done that, and you want them to be at that age where they can remember it and something to look up to, and make them proud, and that's what life's about, really, isn't it? So if we can do something in the next few years, that would be amazing.
Lovely stuff from Korey Smith there. It is, by the way, coming up to almost exactly 5 years since his last competitive goal. Well, Derby facing Burton in competitive fixtures, at least, is still a relatively recent thing. It's only 6 years since the clubs were first in the same division for the first time, and it's Burton who lead the all-time head-to-head. It's only been 4 games, but Burton have won 2 of them, including 2 victories at their Pirelli Stadium. The last meeting was there in April 2018. David Nugent became the first Derby player to score at Burton, but the hosts ran out 3-1 winners. They were relegated from the Championship that season. And they're fighting again this season too, just 3 wins so far. They've got the worst defensive record in the league, but you can guarantee they'll be up for it today. Yeah, their manager, Dino Marmria, made that crystal clear yesterday. The Burton boss with some interesting views on the fixture.
Dino, so when the fixtures came out at the start of the season, if there was one that our fans were looking for, Saturdays is it?
That's exactly it. I think that's in the fixture list, the first thing we looked at. It's a brilliant occasion. It's going to be electric. It's going to be full house. Both teams will go for it. Anyone knows Paul Warne's team, their attacking team, they're going to go for it. And everybody's watching us lately against any team, we're going to go for it. So it's going to be a fantastic game. Our fans will play a huge part to drive us in that massive 3 points, hopefully.
And both teams are in good form. Both teams are unbeaten now for a while, so both will have expectations going into the game.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously the league table, they are just outside the playoffs. We are 22nd, I think. But the form table very, very similar in terms of all competition. And I think it's going to be a very, very close encounter. I think the occasion itself, the derby game, the kick-off time, the weather is going to be nice and crisp. I've been in those games so many times in the past, not in this kind of fixture, but those type of derby game. And it's really a game that we're looking forward to, and it's an occasion we're going to relish.
Great to see the Probably Stadium packed to the rafters, and it's only 3 points, but it's also bragging rights for the fans.
Yeah, we understand obviously the importance of the game to our fans, first and foremost, ourselves as well, to the football club. Like I said in the past, Burton Albion Football Club probably been always at the shadow of Derby until the last 5 years when they compete against each other in the Championship and now League One, and it's a game there where it's at home. We're going to use the home form, the home atmosphere, the closeness of the fans to the pitch, the tightness of our pitch, the condition. We're going to use every advantage to make sure that to capitalise on the occasion. Our players will be well fired up for it, and we've got to make sure as well we keep our heads and make sure that we stay disciplined, we stay at the task. But we want that energy, we want that intensity, we want that attacking thrust straight away from kick-off until the last kick of the game.
And on the pitch, Derby have got some quality players. What do you expect from them, from the Paul Warne side?
Well, we expect them to put a lot of balls in our box. We expect them to be at the front foot. Paul Warne's team has always been an attacking team. They got front 4, 5 really good players, probably some of them better than the level. Whichever 3, 4 they choose from. We know they get threats going forward. We know they like putting balls in the box. We have to deal with. We know they're good from set plays. We have to address that as well. But they got some vulnerability as well. We've got to make sure that we capitalise on those.
Dino Marmaria there, who hasn't been in the job very long, replaced his former boss Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank when he resigned back in September. Well, Derby's coaching staff haven't been in the job all that long themselves either, really, but the good run that Derby are on earned manager Paul Warne a Manager of the Month nomination for an unbeaten November. Assistant Richie Barker gave us his reaction to that on Thursday.
Yeah, I only found that out myself yesterday, or last night. I think I read it somewhere. He hasn't even told me yet. I meant to mention it to him in the car this morning and he never said anything. So, yeah, it is, but obviously it's the bigger recognition of the work from the team. I know everybody says that all the time, but an unbeaten November, I think. So, obviously we would have liked a few more points, but yeah, it's probably not a bad start in probably his second full month in charge. So, yeah, hopefully there'll be a few more.
Given the fact he's not been crowing about it, does that sort of illustrate the type of character he is? That sort of award doesn't maybe matter all that much in the big picture?
I think he doesn't know. He probably doesn't know. He probably, yeah, or either that or he's forgotten about it because his memory's horrendous, isn't it? So, yeah, like he's well aware that one, if you don't get it, and two, if we end up losing next week, it means nothing. So. I don't know how many we'll have had over the last 5 or 6 years, probably quite a few. But yeah, if we don't get beat, we don't win at the weekend, or we're not successful come the end of the season, then obviously, it's just something else for him to clutter up his house, really.
You're on a good run at the moment, which is reflected in the nomination. 10 games since you last lost in 90 minutes, 6 unbeaten in the league. What have been the keys to that run for you?
Probably one of the things is we've changed them, or want to change the mindset of the players, become harder to beat. hopefully become harder to score against. Obviously, that's resulted at the minute where it's sort of not dried up at the other end, but there's a couple of nil-nillers in there that we're obviously well aware of. But so be more organised, have a determination between the group of the recognition of how hard it is to ensure that you don't get beat, the little bits that people don't see, the work with the back, not just the back four, but the work with the people in front of them about how we're going to get the ball back and how we're going to prevent people scoring opportunities, and obviously defending set pieces. So there's a lot goes into it, but a big part of that is harping on every day in training about becoming harder to beat. And we set them a challenge a few weeks ago, as we did at a previous club, and so talked about, look, to be successful, you have to be going on runs going into double figures of not getting beat. And obviously within that there'll be some draws, there'll be some wins, but if you can go on a couple of those runs where it gets into double figures, then somewhere along the line you'll not be far away.
You're back on the road this weekend, not far to go to get to Burton. What do you expect from them?
Well, I'm obviously well aware that it's a local derby, as in this division, probably as local as it gets for us, and two very different football clubs who've gone in different directions. And I'm old enough to remember Burton Albion as I think maybe a Conference North club even 20 odd years ago. So I have huge admiration for the club who, going through the pyramid's not very easy these days because it's predominantly based around, rich owners and finance, but they did it the correct way. So, to have a couple of years in the Championship and now become a sustained League One club, they've done really well. So a really difficult game, not a ground that either we as a group of staff have been successful in the last few years, and I know that the football club haven't been successful, so it's not something we'll be taking lightly. We also know that when you go into a local derby, sometimes form goes out the window. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it does, unfortunately, and there'll be a tremendous atmosphere and a really difficult game.
Richie Barker there. There was supposed to be a full slate of games in League One this afternoon. At last count, 3 had already been postponed due to the weather. And the games at Ipswich and Shrewsbury both get underway at 12:30. Leaders Plymouth are at Cambridge. That one's a 3 o'clock start. And from 1:30, we will bring you Burton Albion against Derby County. Remember, you can watch the game with us on RamsTV, including right here in the UK. It is a sellout, but you'll get the very best coverage right here on RamsTV. Sean Barker will be alongside in the studio and on commentary as well. Get your match pass right now at dcfc.co.uk. Goodbye.
To organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
In a world more divided than ever, nothing brings us together like the beautiful game. From across the globe we come, to share in the moment, to bathe in the passion, to breathe in the atmosphere. In these moments, football comes first. It unifies, it reunites, it reminds us that we have more in common than we might think. That is what Derby County does. And this month, there's apparently also a World Cup going on, which means you can watch Saturday's game against Burton Albion live on RamsTV wherever you are, even if that's right here at home.